So, Monday Night Raw, coming right after Hell in a Cell, or however it goes. Coming to you from Dallas, Texas. Only a couple hours away from San Antonio. I know, I've driven there. About a 4 hour drive with no traffic. Have to go right through Austin. So, after the events of Hell in a Cell, of Brock Lesnar beating the holy hell out of Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns to a non-finish, and WWE just ending the show abruptly just like that. We are here in Dallas, and who shows up? Roman Reigns. And the first thing he does, he goes, "Hey, Brock Lesnar, come on out here." Now, of course, that doesn't happen. And the constable, Wolfman, Lone Wolf, whatever, comes out, Baron Corbin. And he says that, hey, what happened, happened. And then Braun Strowman comes down. And he goes, hey, what the hell happened last night? Because obviously he lost his Money in the Bank contract to a non-finish. That's just absolutely horrible. So he says exactly what everybody else said in San Antonio, that this sucks. And Baron Corbin says he's been on the phone with Stephanie all day. And the final decision is that they're going to get a rematch at the triple threat match at the Grand event or the Crown event or whatever in Saudi Arabia. And of course, we hear Brock Lesnar's music. And out comes Paul Heyman. But not only does he come out, but he comes out with the dented cage from Hell in a Cell that Brock Lesnar just happened to kick through. I mean, if a man can kick through a cage, then you should never take a kick from this guy as a wrestler, because he's pretty much caved in your whole entire rib cage. But we won't go into that. So he talks about kicking his way into hell, Brock Lesnar, and all others spews out a bunch of stuff. And Braun, that was already leaving the ring, decides he wants to get a piece of Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman, takes off. So all that's left was we have Baron Corbin and Roman Reigns. And he says, oh, you got to defend your championship against me, Baron Corbin. Now, considering that they announced that there's going to be a rematch in Saudi Arabia in November for the championship between Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar, you kind of get the feeling that a championship match against Baron Corbin on this particular Raw is going to have no consequence whatsoever. This is how WWE Creative thinks, folks. We're going to book a match in the future with these folks, but we're going to book another match right in front. Anyway, moving on. So next match we have Drew McIntyre versus Dean Ambrose, which actually was a pretty decent match. And what was even cooler, we got to see Dean Ambrose use a cloverleaf. Now, in the several years I've seen Dean Ambrose, quote unquote, wrestle, I don't think I've ever seen him do that before. In fact, he's done a few things that has surprised me these past few weeks. It's like he wanted to learn how to be a better wrestler. Hey, more power to him. So anyway, McIntyre gets the win with a Claymore. And if I were to rate it, I'd give it 3 stars. Like I said, halfway decent match between these two. My biggest problem with Drew McIntyre is he's like a foot and a half taller than everybody. So when he's like punching down, it just looks weird. Because in all honesty, He looks like he should be taking people's heads off with his punches. He looks like he's like twice the size of everybody, short of Braun Strowman. So then we go into the back and we see Baron Corbin talking to Dolph Ziggler, and he looks like he's hurt from falling off the cage. And he goes, "Hey, Seth Rollins isn't here, so if you invoke your rematch," which everybody seems to have an automatic rematch clause. So if you're the champion and you lose, you automatically get a rematch. Or if you're the champion and you win, the other guy gets a rematch. So if you lose, if you get a title match, it's automatically 2 matches. Usually 3 in the WWE, by the way they think. It's like I get a rematch, and then I get a tag team match, and then I get another rematch. So every title match, just think, if you're a wrestler, you're going to at least get 3 rematches if you lose. You just have to get that title match. So anyway, he tells that if Seth Rollins doesn't show up, he forfeits the title. So Ziggler says, go ahead and get it done. We go to another part of the locker room and we see Ronda Rousey with the Bellas and Natalya. And she wants to do an open challenge. Alright, whatever. Next, for the 3rd week in a row, we have Bobby Roode and Chad Gable versus the Ascension. But wait, we changed it up a little bit. It's just Chad Gable versus Victor. Wasn't that basically the last 2 matches the past 2 weeks? I mean, even it was technically a tag team match, but it was mostly Chad Gable and Victor in the ring. Sometimes Connor. That's an interesting name for a guy on the Ascension, Connor. Sounds like a kid who should be playing lacrosse. So what we get is a singles match that was basically the same as the other matches we've seen for the past 3 weeks. Same ending, too. Wow. What a surprise. But right after this, Connor decides to beat down on Chad Gable, get a cheap shot, and walks off. I'll give this match 1.5 stars simply because we've seen it 3 times already. But after this match, we see that Seth Rollins is limping into the building. So he's not away. He doesn't have to forfeit the title. He's there. Woo! Alright, so Undertaker comes up, makes his way down to the ring. It's obviously the segment's going to take about half an hour. And I don't know if it was just me, but I have a feeling that was not the Undertaker's real hair. It looked just a little too weird to me. I couldn't stop staring at it. But he talks about holes and souls and Triple H and Shawn, and I don't have the attention span for that anymore. But he says at the Super Showdown he's not going to be alone. And that Kane is going to be in his corner. Now, in case you didn't know, the last I heard, Kane won some type of political office in Tennessee. I think it was mayor or something. So that tells me that Kane is going to step away from his public servant duties to fly all the way to Australia to be in the corner of the Undertaker. That's pretty cool. Now, I have a feeling that if I were in Tennessee, I probably wouldn't have voted for him. But that's just me. So next, we have Bayley, our good friend Bayley, versus Dana Brooke. Now, if you don't remember, a couple of weeks ago, Dana Brooke has lost a few matches, and she quit being the statistician of Titus Worldwide. And now she wants to do things on her own. And she's against Bayley. Now, if you haven't noticed, the whole Bayley and Sasha Banks thing kind of fizzled like a fart in the wind. And now they're buddies. That whole storyline didn't go anywhere. But this match has about as much interest as watching paint dry in my flooded basement. But at the same time, it looked like Dana had a little mean streak going. It looked like she was trying to put a little oomph in her step, or whatever you want to call it. But as she, started to get a little momentum, Bayley did her belly to belly suplex, and boom, match is over. I mean, we didn't even give a chance to see how Dana responds. It's just over. Moving on. And next, we get the Authors of Pain with Little Man. I forget his name. Against some two dudes. And it looks like they're trying to revamp the Authors of Pain, which we already know they're big guys who beat everybody up. So they go out there and it's another squash match. This is what you paid for, Dallas. So, Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler have the next match. Now, these two have wrestled before many times, and they've had excellent matches many times. But at the same time, we're seeing these guys, and they're limping and, humbling along, so you're wondering if they can actually do this match. And I have to say, they were selling the injuries of falling off the Hell in a Cell pretty darn well. Like, every time they did a move, they were like, oh, hurt, oh, hurt. But they were still moving pretty good. It was a decent match. Then all of a sudden we see Rollins hit Ziggler with the curb stomp. And it was actually a pretty quick match. Not what I'm used to seeing those two do, but I guess they were given a little bit less time because, they're quote-unquote hurt. Then Ronda Rousey comes to the ring. And she wants to be the best champion and talks about all these other champions, whatever. It's hard to understand her. She has to work on her mic skills a lot. I know everybody loves her, but she's a talented athlete. I'll give her that. But her mic skills and her in-ring skills need work. She's not a performer. She's a fighter. So she says she has an open challenge, and we kind of get the feeling that Natalya might show up. So lo and behold, whose music do we hear? Natalya's. But in a quick bit of a swerve, we see the Riot Squad come out. Dragging Natalya. And I'm like, okay, we have ourselves maybe a halfway decent swerve storyline here going on. And they're like, okay, we're going to take Ronda out. So they come out, start putting the beat down on Ronda. Of course, she's able to fight back. And the Bellas show up. And they help Ronda Rousey. So we have no match. And somehow 10 minutes is wasted. So next, after commercial, we have my good man, Elias, who's getting better and better on the guitar each and every single week. I mean, they just might as well leave him in there the entire show. like he says. If you haven't noticed, I'm a huge mark for Elias. I love his mic work. And of course, he does what I expected him to do, was to make fun of the Cowboys. I'm not a Cowboys fan, so when he marked on the Cowboys, that just made my day even better. And then the little dude from last week, who was trying to pump up Bobby Lashley, comes out and starts talking. And we find out his name is Lio Rush. Now, I don't know if he's a wrestler or a manager or what. But he says he's representing Bobby Lashley. And Elias was like, hey, little boy, get lost. Then it turns into a match between Elias and Bobby Lashley. I can't remember if that was pre-planned or put together right then and there. Anything with Bobby Lashley, I'm not a fan of. I mean, he's an excellent athlete, can wrestle, but he has no personality. I didn't like him 15 years ago. I don't like him now. It's like he's never learned how to develop a personality. And as soon as the match started, lo and behold, who shows up? Kevin Owens. And our little man, Lio Rush, runs to the ring and does, a few jumps over, I think, both Kevin Owens and Elias. Leapfrogs. Bobby Lashley picks him up and throws him on the guys from the ring. I mean, in all honesty, Bobby Lashley, being as big as he is, probably could have thrown this guy into the 300 section of the arena. Still trying to figure out what his point is. I mean, Elias and Kevin Owens probably should have caught this kid and just ripped him in half. Anyway, he jumps back in the ring, gets on Bobby Lashley's arms, shoulders, and everybody's clapping or whatever. So I were to give, that wasn't even a match that deserves any stars. Then we have a next match. It's a tag team match. It's Mickie James and Alicia Fox, the two girls who follow Alexa Bliss, who I've heard is currently injured, legitimately, versus Ember Moon, who started off strong when she got called up to Raw, but for some reason has been underutilized. Big surprise there. I think WWE has a list of wrestlers that they say, hey, we're going to call up to do nothing with them. We have our stars, we have our jobbers, and then we just have our meh. And that's everybody we're going to call up from NXT. Anyway, we have a surprise guest wrestler or surprise wrestler. It's Nia Jax, because we haven't seen her in, a month. Quick match, Nia gets the pin. Ma-di-da. So after that, we come to our main event. Roman Reigns versus Baron Corbin. Now, this was actually a halfway decent match. But once again, like I said, when you've booked a championship match with your champion for 2 months away, then you kind of know, for the most part, that he's going to stay champion for the next 2 months. So, when he has a championship match that night, you kind of get the feeling he's not going to lose the match. Or at least he's not going to lose the championship. So the whole match felt rather anticlimactic. And that's exactly how I felt with watching the match. Yeah, they did good spots and everything, but since I knew nothing was going to happen, I really didn't pay attention to the match. I do know Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre came down, and probably even Braun Strowman. And Baron Corbin called it a non-disqualification match after he hit him with a chair. And then Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose came down. And before I know it, the show was over. I think there was a pin. Yeah, pin. Roman Reigns got a spear and got the pin. Whatever. Anyway, so 3 hours. We got about maybe a couple of minutes of wrestling. And this goes back to my argument that after a pay-per-view, other than the main storyline with the champion, like Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, your show after a pay-per-view should really take the time to showcase the other talent, especially the ones that weren't on the pay-per-view. So we had an excellent opportunity to maybe see decent matches with the likes of Bobby Roode, Finn Balor, Apollo Crews, Titus O'Neil, hell, even the B Team and Curtis Hawkins. Something for those guys to come out and do something. Heath Slater, Rhino. We can have good quality matches and good quality storylines to move things along, while the guys that performed at the pay-per-view can maybe take a moment's rest. We don't have to see Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins perform again. We can just see them in the back. They talk a little bit and move on. But no, we have to focus on rehashing the exact same thing we saw the night before, or rehashing the exact same thing we saw the week before. WWE Creative has gotten, for lack of a better term, stale and complacent. Anyway, I'm going to save that for another rant. And believe me, that one's brewing. It's bubbling up like that 3-day-old clam chowder that you thought was still good in the refrigerator. And after you've eaten a bowl of it, you realized that you were woefully wrong. And then you realize, as you look into your medicine cabinet, that you're out of Pepto-Bismol. Yeah. Let that visual sink in. Anyway, what were your thoughts of this week's Raw? I know we have other shows, we have football and all other stuff, but you happen to watch it, let me know. Tell me your thoughts. Post in the comments below. And I'll talk to you next time. Peace.